Hello, Jen here with card number 2 in the collaborative holiday card series that Daisy from Daisy Scraps and I are doing. We're taking a card each week from Christina Werner's holiday series and we're replicating it for ourselves. So I'm just showing you here some of the things that I want to use, some embossing powders and stamps that I have that I'm thinking about using. And I'm going to start with some 140-pound watercolor paper, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp. So Christina's card that we are trying to replicate is this really simple, beautifully embossed card with some hand-painted flowers around it. And her sentiment in the center of the card takes up most of that center, and it's beautiful scripted sentiment. One says, I think, Merry Christmas, and the other says something about peace. But I will link to the video so you can see these cards for yourself. And there is a slight border around the card, and she uses that border as a great place to do some hand-painted flowers. So I looked through my stamp set for cards that would give me that same feel of a border around the edge or a big blocky stamp that would take up most of the card. So the first one I'm going to try is a mason jar, and I'm going to fill it with some Christmassy things. And now I'm going to do this big stamp that says Noel. I'll just stamp it right into the middle of the paper. And I'm pushing down really good. You want to make sure that you get a really good impression and that Versamark has covered the entire word so that the embossing powder sticks through the texture of the watercolor paper. And there you go. This one actually turns out really pretty. I think that if I were to replicate this card multiple times, this would probably be the stamp that I would use out of all of the ones that I own. So I did both of those with the Pirates Gold, and that's a Stampendous embossing powder. And now I'm just going to heat set those ones. And they're super pretty and shiny. And then for the next two cards, oh, I'm just showing you how pretty they are. Oh, I'm also showing you that it's important to clean your stamps after you use Versamark on them. So now I'm just going to take this Close to My Heart stamp set, and I'm going to use this little border stamp. It's sort of like an evergreen bough, I guess you would say, or just a vine. And I'm going to use this to make a top and bottom border, and then I can put a sentiment in the center of it. So I'll emboss this part of it anyways. So I'm just trying to line that up and make sure that it's fairly centered. I'm eyeballing it for the most part, but I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't off too badly. And for this, I'm going to use the Martha Stewart Gold that I have. It's just slightly more of a clean gold, I would say. The Pirates Gold is has a bit of a muckiness to it, or it's got more of a yellow tinge to it. This one's just a little bit cleaner and brighter. And then lastly, I'm going to use my Martha Stewart glue pen. And I'm just going to draw a frame in the center of my card, and I'll stamp some sentiments into it. But if you're really good with brush lettering, or if you're really artistic, you could go ahead and just use this glue pen to draw whatever you wanted in the middle of your cards and emboss that, which would be really nice for, super personalized handmade cards. So I'm not that artistic, as you can see by my frame, but I thought that was a good alternative if you didn't have a stamp that worked. And I used the copper penny on that one because I thought it might be fun. I like copper at Christmas too. I think it gives sort of that vintagey feel to it. So I'll just heat set both of those. And if you were doing this as an assembly line, you could stamp or draw and then cover everything with the powder and do a whole bunch of cards, just set them to the side, and then heat set them when you're done. The only thing that you can't do is stamp too far ahead of time because the Versamark will lose its tackiness. So you want to make sure you could probably stamp a few and then cover them with ink, but you don't want to stamp too many without covering them, not ink, embossing powder, sorry, without covering them, just to make sure that embossing powder sticks. So now I've just gone through those same stamp sets and I'm pulling out a few different sentiments that I think will match the embossing that I've done. And Christina's card is the full center is embossed, but with a lot of these sentiments I just felt like they were a little bit too small and that some of the detail might get lost. I don't have a really nice fine embossing powder, and so you could probably use that if you did to make this entire thing embossed. But because my embossing powders are a little bit more chunky, I'm just going to leave my sentiments black. And of course you could stamp in different colors as well if you wanted to sort of change up the look that way. So the last thing I'll do here is I'm going to experiment a little bit with some of my colors. I just want to see how the reds and greens mix to be able to give me a few different variations so that I can do some hand-painted flowers. And I will practice a few petals on there, and now I'm going to paint. So I'm going to put some music on and let you just watch me go ahead. I have no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. This is all just going by feel and copying the general gist of what Christina did. So enjoy, and I'll be back in a second. And I'll just finish up this last card with a few little extra leaves. Really simple stuff. I think for me, once I got into the groove of things, it went by really quickly. I just used simple shapes and lots of different shades of colors and filled in the gaps. So I really encourage you to try this and have lots of fun with it. Don't be intimidated by hand painting. I finished my cards with some embossing around the edges, and I mounted them on some card bases in red and green, and we're all done. Thank you so much for stopping in to watch. If you're here from Daisy's channel, I really appreciate the visit. And if you haven't seen Daisy's card yet, I'll leave the links below. Go and check her out. And check out Christina's card as well. Until next week, everyone. Talk to you later. Happy scrapping! Bye!